This podcast is part of the Gonna Geek Network. The opinions expressed may not represent other podcasts or affiliates of Gonna Geek. Check out more podcasts at gonnageek.com and get ready because geekness starts in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Arthouse Legends, where high art and geek culture collide. Now, I understand everyone's shit's real emotional right now, but I've got a 3-point plan that's going to fix everything. Number 1, we got this podcast, Arthouse Legends. Number 2, it's got a higher IQ than any podcast alive. And number 3, it's going to fix everything. This podcast is brought to you by Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr., fuck you, I'm eating. Today on the Violence Channel, we are joined by John Lobster.
And me, Kent, who needs more electrolytes.
And I am the MovieDude Eric, sponsored by Brondo and Carl's Jr. and Tarlington Cigarettes, because fuck you!
That's right. That's the right attitude. And this week, we're talking about Idiocracy, starring Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph, Dax Shepard, Terry Crews, and Sarah Rue, directed by Mike Judge. All right, folks, it has been a rollicking election season, and I think one of the strangest things to come out of the last couple years of politics has been the strange validation of a 10-year-old little scene Mike Judge movie called Idiocracy. And I say little scene because I feel like not only did the studio kind of balk at making this film, again, this was Mike Judge's follow-up to Office Space, and he had been working in television quite successfully with King of the Hill and Beavis and Butthead. But it came out at a sensitive time, 2006. We were kind of in the midst of the W era, and there was kind of a culture backlash against, I think, what was perceived as kind of a dumbing down of politics and culture. This was the rise of the reality TV era, and Idiocracy, it seemed, was kind of poised as a commentary on that. But I think both from the film's performance at the box office and with the critics, who I think have come around a bit regarding this movie, Idiocracy did not make much of a splash. It certainly didn't define anyone's career or become a cultural touchstone the way Office Space did. So,
well, the thing is when it comes to Idiocracy, is they didn't have any trailers out. They didn't publicize this movie. This was
right. That's why I'm saying I think the studio kind of tried to bury it because I don't think they really wanted to start the conversation that the film was trying to have, and they certainly didn't want to do it considering that it doesn't have a loving respect for the theater-going audience, I think is putting it mildly. In the film, they make the joke about the biggest movie of the year is a movie called Ass, which is literally 90 minutes of a male ass, and it won 8 Oscars, including Best Screenplay.
It would have been even better if it was produced by Fox Searchlight Pictures.
Right. And so I feel that Idiocracy did not receive its due when it came out. However, I think there have been some odd parallels between the future depicted in the film 500 years from now and basically like the election of 2016. And again, we've come through the other side of the election. We know who our president-elect is, and it's more affirming of Idiocracy than it is de-affirming. So I think that we're really trying to squeeze in a quick discussion of this film because, again, it's the 10-year anniversary of this movie. It seems so fitting to talk about it with this election. I don't want to go too heavy-handed on the politics with that. I want this to kind of be our catharsis and our kind of like, okay, so if Idiocracy is where we're headed or isn't where we're headed, what warnings or spoof does this film offer us?
Well, it does seem to be imply that maybe some people need to use birth control and then here and now. But
I'm
gonna say here,
if there is one problem I have with this film, it's the vaguely eugenics kind of thing that it has going on.
Yeah.
I just want
I love the opening. The opening is so brilliant. I'm sorry.
There was something I saw that tried proving that the opening had a serious flaw in it, but the opening is still very entertaining and does the important thing of setting the universe.
Fantastic
it's
satire.
Hyper realistic.
Yeah. It's fantastic satire that implies that if you look at human evolution, the strongest and smartest survive, and then they take this thing where, like, obviously the well-educated,
no known predators.
Yeah. You kind of are rewarded by your multiplicity,
which is kind of the only flaw I see the predator thing. Because if this happened to America, we'd get attacked by other countries. I mean, if we really got that dumb.
Well, you don't think they don't have their own rednecks? You kidding me?
I think that a more totalitarian regime might try and avoid. They might have their people might. Well, okay, this will offend some totalitarian regimes. Their people might be dumber now, but watch how our IQ in this world would drop way below theirs, and they'd be like, we can march in there any minute now and just take them because they're too dumb to fight back.
And the other thing too, I always think about when we talk about movies with the future, I'm like, it's either going to be Star Trek or it's going to be Hunger Games. Like we're going to go like one direction, and things are going to be great, and there's going to be plenty, because we'll invent replicators or whatever, and free and clean energy, or we're going to go the Hunger Games route, which eventually you have to realize there's not going to be enough for everybody, and you're going to have to thin the.
I would assume you would have gone Mad Max for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Mad Max. There's really no government, right? It's just kind of like a free for all.
Collapsed because
so
of
and so I think, well, if you're going to have government,
sorry, but what do you
so it's
think
got to
Bullet
be
Town is? What do you think?
Right. So you have
Thunderdome
city
is?
states, but in terms of looking at Idiocracy, the major institutions of American life have survived intact. You still have the presidency, you still have hospitals, you still have police, you still have, and obviously you still have capitalism and corporations that continue to dominate life and the entertainment industry. So I think Idiocracy is kind of fun because it gives you all of the major institutions still exist, and this is 500 years in the future, but everything is still fairly recognizable, right? With the exception maybe of getting a handy when you go to Starbucks. Or the
I don't know, but I mean, the way that they deal with punishments in this world seems rather violent.
It's very Roman. It's very Roman gladiator.
Right, and that I think kind of fits with if you looked at like Roman history, and then like if you have this populace that's unhappy, give them bread and circuses, and that'll kind of like fix everything. I even caution to say that like the Dax Shepard's character Frito Pendejo gets his law degree at Costco, and I feel like that's almost. Like we're almost there. Like I know you can get like your taxes done now at Costco, and like you can have a lot of stuff done at these big box chains. And I know that we have for-profit education institutions. I feel like it's not a stretch to say, and especially if Costco was as massive as it appears in the movie, then it's kind of like it's like.
You mean it becomes its own nation?
Yeah, it kind of becomes its own city state or mega block in terms of like
Right.
Judge Dredd or whatever. And it's like I don't, and this is scary, I don't see the Idiocracy future as being not feasible. Like I feel like we could get, like, there's a way that we could get there, and I don't know if it would be all bad in terms of, and I know, Kent, you kind of want to make an argument about whether this is a utopia or a dystopia later on, but if you look at kind of the progression, even since 2006 to 2016, like there are elements in this film that have become more central to American life. Like I think Starbucks kind of used to be where the that was kind of like the snobby place to get coffee, and now it's become the the term I think right now is basic. That is like you go and get your pumpkin spice latte, and the Costco. I mean, I can buy now. We were in Costco the other day. We can book our honeymoon at Costco. We can buy homeowners insurance at Costco. Like there's a ton of stuff. And again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know if that existed 10 years ago. But I think maybe it's weird, like how much in this film has become true. I'll give another example, kind of the way that the healthcare system is set up in the future. And so you kind of have, it's not really like going to a hospital. It's almost more like going to an urgent care type thing. And you get to keyboard in front and you select with the emoticon. And I mean, it's scary, but I feel like we've come closer within the last 10 years to the mechanics of Idiocracy than, I mean, obviously we don't have giant trash heaps or whatever. I'm not sure about the Barca Lounger toilets. I feel like I saw that somewhere, but
Saturday Night Live at various points throughout history have made jokes like that. So
I mean, I think whatever you think of the film and its kind of methodology, I think that it's strangely prophetic. But I don't want to dominate this discussion. What kind of struck you guys as being surreal as you were watching it?
I didn't find anything to be really surreal as much as it's just heightened. One of the things that I think is kind of interesting here is, especially like when you look at it from the beginning, a lot of this stuff seems to be something that comes from something natural, because that there's actually something philosophical about Idiocracy, in the sense that that there is a philosophical aspect to the concept of things devolve. Ideas devolve, policies devolve. So when you have something like Idiocracy, which is basically kind of laughing at the ability of people not really aspiring to their better nature, but is in fact kind of de-evolving to base, desires, wants, and kind of playing that up to the gain of of individuals, as we'll see, things such as capitalism, cronyism, things of that nature aren't removed. There are still corporations, there are still bottom lines, there are still there are still triggers that are hit that cause massive amounts of damage, primarily to someone's bottom line. It isn't all that stupid. The problem I think that the film has in that sense is that it's like some of the stuff doesn't really mesh as something stupid, just something that's goofy. It's just surreal,
it definitely plays. It definitely plays for the comedic angle, right? Like it does imply that not everyone in the future is stupid, because many of the systems that have been engineered are actually quite genius. Like the Carl's Jr. kiosk that sprays a
yeah.
tranquilizer gas on you when you start beating up on the machine. Like that's not stupid. That's actually brilliant. There's a Black Mirror episode that kicked off the new season on Netflix, and that has a very ingenious way of de-escalating conflict, which is once you escalate a conflict, like once you start to scream at the ticket agent at the airport because your flight was canceled, then you get downvoted on the little social app, and then if the security has to intervene, then you're automatically downvoted again, and then anything else takes on basically double damage. And so that very quickly and passively, because everything is kind of based on that in their society, it's like an
putting your credit score to your
to your reputation score.
That would be also so completely unfair.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of the point that the episode makes. But I feel like there's somebody in the future in Idiocracy that is actually kind of a genius, because they've come up with subtle ways of controlling the population. This is a very lethargic, passive population. Nobody gets really up in arms, I guess, until kind of the end of the movie when they all lose their jobs at Brondo. So as long as the economy, I guess, is chugging along, no one is really upset. Like everybody keeps saying in the movie, and they repeat this a couple times, "Oh, you love money too? Man, I love money. That's so weird." And everyone kind of, even at the lower, or what you, I guess, would perceive as the lower economic strata, they have like mad cash on hand. So it's really kind of interesting the way that this society works. I don't want to go on too much about the mechanics of the film. Let's talk about the kind of setup that we have. It's almost a Futurama type. Somebody gets frozen in cryostasis for too long, wakes up in the future. We have two lead characters. One is a mediocre. We see the bell curve and see that Luke Wilson's character is average, and
the
basically
average.
Yeah, he's
the
in every
Lord
sense of
average.
every sense of the word.
And they picked an actor that is adequate to that role to 100%.
Yeah.
I would agree
perfectly average.
that Luke Wilson is an average actor. He definitely fits the description there, and also paired with the awesome Maya Rudolph, who is a civilian volunteer from the private sector.
Yes.
And this was one
She's
of the
a painter.
things she is. This was one of the things that I kind of had, I think, the most trouble with is, so she is a prostitute. She has a pimp named Upgrade who is befriended with a Y and two Ds, who is befriended by the military scientist that's overseeing this project.
I love those pictures of the scientist with Upgrade. Those were hilarious.
What you have to
That would have been a great
understand
movie in itself.
about a pimp's life is that it is not the same as a square's. The life of a pimp. And
it reminded me of a movie called Something Wild with Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith about a square who gets involved with this kind of free-spirited type of girl. I just thought to myself, man, this would be a great movie. Just the army scientist and the pimp, just like the road trip between those two. I mean, just because those pictures. Oh my God, I could make up a story from those pictures.
Well, and it's
and I can't.
It's really brilliant the way that it connects to the plot, because you're like, okay, this is like a one-off gag that they're gonna do, but no, it actually explains why they end up locked in cryo-freeze for so long. It's because this scientist has been thrown out of the military on corruption charges for trying to start his own prostitution ring. And that's why the pods get buried once they scrap the program.
Yeah.
I'll be honest here. All the way up until the time we get to 2505, I'm loving this movie. I love how they set it up. There's great setup. I mean, it was just brilliant. I mean, how they set up the premise of the movie, the use of the voiceover that's kind of telling us all of the events, or kind of giving us the short answer. The way that they kind of set up Joe as a character, the situation around Joe, the stuff around Maya Rudolph's character. I love the stuff with the army scientists and the pictures with Upgrade. It was all just really well set up. Up until the time that we have the fast forward, I'm loving this movie. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just really well set up, especially for a comedy. Just well executed as getting us to the. I don't know if it would be considered the second act or if everything is kind of a prologue to the first act, right?
It's kind of like
prologue.
Office Space up until he gets hypnotized, right? Like Office Space doesn't really start until the hypnosis thing, but you get a lot of setup that gives you that you need to understand
in Office Space,
why
that's a clear
it's
second
important.
act because it sets up it is a setup but it establishes the world that we're going into. Whereas with this film, none of this stuff is, we're not coming back to this world. This is, we're going to go to 2525 and the whole world is changed, and that's going to be where we live in. That's our environment from that point. So everything up to this point is a prologue, or that's kind of really how it feels like. Whereas Office Space, it sets up the world, it sets up the characters, it sets up the situation, and everything twists because of the hypnosis.
Yeah. And I feel like this is more common story structure wise with an animated film. It's like if you've ever watched The Simpsons, kind of the first 5 or 6 minutes of The Simpsons is probably not what the rest of the episode's going to be about. You get kind of a little
I get your saying.
you get something at the beginning that again, it sets up some jokes and maybe something that'll pay off later on. In this case, it's Upgrade. I don't know if you guys stayed until the end of the credits for Idiocracy, but Upgrade comes back. He makes it. He pulled some strings with his Defense Department buddy, and has to track down his girl. But there's something.
You were wanting a sequel, weren't you?
Listen. I think that they were planting the seed. I don't know necessarily where they would go with it. I would not be averse to revisiting this universe, especially now. This seems perfectly poised for like a Kickstarter.
It would take 10 years for
or a
Upgrade to
TV
find
series. Let's see a TV series. Idiocracy, the series.
The series.
Now on C-SPAN.
Yes. It's too real.
My
It's
God.
too real, folks. You heard it here first.
Oh my God.
Brought to you by Carl's Jr.
Junior. We don't have a Carl's Jr. by it. We have the Hardys.
No,
in this area,
no.
So,
That's not a thing around here either.
yeah.
But I
Carl's Jr. came here about 5 years
I
ago.
understand the sentiment because there's many times when I have been eating and I have just thought, especially, you're on your break, you want to have your meal, you just want some quiet time. Somebody comes up to you and starts talking to you. It's like, fuck you, I'm eating.
Eating, yeah.
So that's a slogan I could actually get behind.
I did find myself watching Dax Shepard eat that crab.
What?
It reminded me of this horror movie from the 80s called The Stuff.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
I think
There's
I have heard
there's
of
a
it,
bucket of, and it looks like a cross between like Fun Dip and Velveeta cheese or like something like that. I don't know, like cheese
I just thought
whiz.
it was like lard.
Yeah,
I think it's just like unfettered lard.
Basically, there certainly are some inventions in this future that are perplexing, if not entirely out of the realm of speculation. And let's talk about the central one, which is actually kind of the central problem that we're forced to solve, which is that in in the interests of eliminating competition, Brondo, the corporation that makes a Gatorade-like sports drink, it's got electrolytes, has decided to put their competition out of business, and they have eliminated water. You mean that stuff that's in the toilet?
Yeah.
And replaced it with...
I honestly think that that's part of the marketing campaign. Do
Yeah.
you really want to drink the
Right,
thing that's out of the
exactly.
toilet?
Why would you drink what's in the toilet? That's
And they take
gross.
and in a thing that's also kind of scary, familiar, they just buy out the FDA and
The FDA and the
the
FDA and the
FDA, the SEC, there's
Yeah.
another alphabet agency that goes
They
along.
don't do the
I think with
they-
consumer protection.
I think that's it. Yeah, which is there's groups trying to buy
I
the
love how
EPA
Brondo
today,
becomes
so.
the entire pyramid.
Yes.
That was...
And in case you weren't looking closely, the correct amount of Brondo that you should consume, presumably on a daily basis, is
Well, yeah.
All of
an
it.
ass load. That was the
that was the
small
official?
text to the side of the pyramid. That is the official quantity, an ass load.
Wait. I'm being too smart to ask this, but is that a metric or imperial?
Listen, I don't
think they cared.
listen. The way that you're talking right now sounds kind of
Effie.
effeminate. I don't know. Yeah. Again,
Go ahead, say it.
there are some
Say it.
problems, I think, in this. So words that have maybe gone out of favor to use in polite company clearly have made a comeback in the future. So we get the F word, the other F word dropped a few times. We get the R word dropped quite a bit, and I imagine that there are other more. I think the C word shows up. So kind of coarse language has made a comeback as well.
Yeah.
And again, there's various kind of classism in this film. It's obviously kind of looking down on. I think it says hillbilly speech, urban slang, and there was
all the English
hillbilly,
language now.
urban.
It's all the official. It's all consolidated into the same thing.
right,
So,
and there's spelling of certain words has
Yeah.
changed as well, which we have seen. We
yeah.
don't spell things the same way as they do in England, even though we speak English. Spelling of certain words has changed over time. So that, it kind of makes sense that things would be spelled maybe more phonetically in the future. We don't have the prevalence of sort of text or tweet speak. Nobody goes LMAO at any point. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, it's before
And-
that happens in our society.
Yeah, that
so-
was before internet slang became a real
And
thing.
2006, we're just on the cusp of like the first smartphone, the first
Right.
iPhone.
And the emoji.
Yeah. So the film does kind of miss that, and I think
It's
it misses
just
a
shy.
good opportunity. If you look at the
No,
camera
actually, no,
that
they got the emoji. They just put them in stars and not circles.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
If you
yeah.
looked at it, again, I wonder if that's more of a thing about Carl's Jr. because Carl's Jr. is all about stars.
Your
Carl's
emoji
Jr.
is brought to you
owns
by
emoji.
Carl's Jr. This feeling I'm
Yeah.
having brought to you by Carl's Jr.
They now own all the emoji.
They could, yeah.
Well, that's how they express themselves, right? Look at the hospital where they're asking,
Yeah.
what your ailment is.
Is there a baby
Have-
dropping out of
Dropping,
you?
yeah.
That's my favorite one, I think.
I'm gonna say that scene played a little bit too long for comedy. The first time you see the emojis and those things, that's funny. But the second time, it dulls the comedy a little bit.
I do like
But
I do like that they have invented Roombas. They just don't really know how to use them.
Yeah.
That's
They don't know
good.
too
Your
well.
floor is now clean. Your
Clean.
floor is now
It's
clean.
now clean.
And I love the gag about this one goes in your ear, this one
Right.
goes in your mouth, and this
And
one
they're-
goes in your butt. Oh wait,
They're
this
not
one
very
goes.
well marked. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the fact that they look like jacks that you put in your stereo
Right.
speaker.
It's just here. This goes here. This goes here, and this. Wait a second.
Which oddly, we're close to actually having something like that. There are probes you could get that actually hook into your phone that you put in your ear to get a good measure of
or you
temperature.
could until Apple took away the headphone jack. You could do that.
Well, they use the lightning jack now.
Oh.
Yeah.
How sophisticated.
Oh my.
Let's talk about real quick. Justin Long cameo, Dr. Lexus.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is perhaps a great scene. Also a terrible scene, but also
a great scene. Well, it's
you
world
need
building because he goes, "Where's your tattoo?"
Yeah,
and it's like, and he freaks out because people have identification.
You're unmarked.
Yeah,
your UPC code is missing.
At the same time, though, if you're unmarked, then how are you supposed to expect the fact that, or why would you call them to be criminal if they don't have marks? Especially if this is a government sanctioned mark.
If it's the law,
does that mean that you're able to get them removed?
No, if it's the law, somebody somehow got past the system. He doesn't know how or why, and it's freaking him out.
He doesn't officially exist. It's almost like he doesn't have a birth certificate.
Basically, if you don't fall into the very narrow things of what you're supposed to do, you freak out and you become
because you don't think about it. You're not supposed to think about it.
The things that you don't understand, you automatically fear, because we know that in their ignorance, they fear what they do not understand. How could this be? Someone does not have their government mandated, or perhaps corporate mandated, or both, because they never
go the way you're supposed to go, and therefore, oh my God, the whole world is falling apart.
It's like if somebody says, "You don't have credit cards." What? What? Like,
or you don't.
This is starting to become a lot more.
You don't have a cell phone. You don't have a cell phone. You don't. What do you mean you're not on Facebook? What do you mean? What do you mean you're not on LinkedIn?
You don't have a computer at home.
Yeah.
You don't have a computer and you don't have a smartphone. What's wrong here?
And I give them credit for devising a system where the tattoo on your arm is your wallet, your identification. It's everything. And we're kind of like starting to get there. I mean, not tattooing it on, but we now have chips and things that can do that for us.
There are some companies that have experimented with tattooing their employees as their way to get into the building.
Well, I mean, they're called key cards.
No, they're key card. They're doing implants or tattoos on the body. To act as the key card.
I mean, you'll never forget your ID on the way to work. Like, it'll never be awkward.
And of course, when I was in the ultra-religious places I was raised.
You mean the mark of the devil?
That's the mark of the beast. That's right there in Revelation. That's the end times.
It kind of is, too.
Anybody has to have that. Like, okay.
It definitely.
But Mark of the Devil is sponsored by Carl's Jr.
It definitely symbolizes a. You're now complicit in the system, right? You're now marked by the system, and you're definitely part of it. But again, I don't think that is that technology in and of itself is not, I think, unreasonable to look at the way that we're now getting towards consolidating. Again, why carry all of our loyalty cards when we can just have an app on our phone that has one barcode? Or now we have RFID. Like, why carry all that stuff when you can just have a key tag or something that does it for you? Again, this goes the tattoo route, but I don't think it's outside of the realm of imagination that we could someday get there. Yeah.
Well, Eric, when you said this Mark of the Beast brought to you by Carl's Jr., I had a Movie the Golden Calf flashback. It's like, oh yeah, that's fits perfectly.
I also feel that Kevin Smith has also seen Idiocracy when he was making Clerks too.
Yeah, and it definitely, as you go through, and again, the kind of fun thing about this is it's using real brands.
Yeah.
So
except
you
for
go
except for the drink in the future.
Right.
They just say it's like Gatorade.
Yeah, you go to Costco.
But you could actually order Brondo. Brondo was actually something you could actually order from Fox.
Oh, really?
Oh,
They did a
made it?
product
They
tie-in.
actually made it something you could buy.
Okay.
And it actually had a cult following to it until they discontinued it once in like 2010, 2011.
Really? That long of a product life? Okay.
Well, how else will you mutilate your thirst? I beg of you. How
it's got
else?
electrolytes. Yes. Which
What,
I do have a problem with how it's solved at the end, because they make the comment, okay, the electrolytes are salt, they reached into the ground, and made everything impossible. You'd have to dump new dirt on there,
right,
or do some serious, like, weeks worth of water to wash that salt out.
I mean, one assumes that there's still rain.
Right.
I guess, like you assume that there's still rain, and the rain would be mostly, unless it's like acid rain or something, but that seems like it would be a bigger problem, that there would be at least some natural water coming from somewhere. It just wasn't enough, because every time it rained, the soil would kind of rebound a bit, and then they would cover it in Brondo again, and you'd have to wait for that to leach out.
Well, I love how they actually give a scientific reason for that. The salt from the Brondo.
Right. Yeah, you're salting the earth. You're salting the earth. That's what electrolytes are. They're salt. It's sodium. So you're literally salting the earth.
Which is good for you to ingest when you need it, and you've
in reasonable quantities. Yeah.
And you've been doing something that requires it because you've used up all your salts. But, yeah.
It's not a good thing. Let's talk about the justice system of the future, and our first Office Space repeat appearer.
You mean
You mean Stephen Root?
Stephen Root, who plays, let's see, what he had a fun name too.
I want to say it's Mill, or not Mill.
Well, he was Milton on Office Space, but shoot, what's his name in Idiocracy? Because it was something fun.
I want to say he's just judge. I mean, he was just the judge.
No. There was something for it. Sorry, guys, I'm hit.
Judge Papa John's.
Judge Hank the Hangman BMW.
Hank the Hangman BMW.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Judge Hector the Hangman BMW.
Interesting thing, though, Luke Wilson, most of the cast here are Texans, for all things.
So
I thought it was kind of interesting.
Stephen Root coming back. He also played a judge on, let's see, what show? Justified, right?
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes, he was a judge.
Yeah, which is kind of fun. And So his methodology, and certainly the methodology of justice in the future, is not quite what it is today. But there is kind of this thing where
he seems to be acting like Judge Judy or kind of like a courtroom.
It is definitely a court of public opinion, and you are definitely guilty until proven innocent. There is little to no benefit of the doubt or burden of proof
it reminded me of some political rallies I've seen on TV. Guilty. Guilty.
Where they're
that they did this?
Where they're shouting like "lock 'em up, lock 'em up."
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's all this was.
Hillary for prison.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's definitely a. Well, of course he's guilty because he said that thing, or he did that thing, or listen to how he talks.
Yeah.
Would an innocent person talk that way?
Well, in that society, would you? I mean, especially considering that all the shit that he basically had done, even though it was by misunderstanding.
Yeah, he did walk out of the hospital without paying. That is some sort of crime. So.
Yep.
But he's too dumb to not be smart enough to realize that he needs to fake being really dumb.
Yeah. He's trying to logically explain his way out of things, which if there's anything that people don't trust, it is the well-spoken and well-educated. So they're clearly they're
And he's not even
clearly
that, but,
not trustworthy.
yeah.
Right. I mean, he's no genius. I think that's kind of the fun thing. And they repeatedly show you that he's kind of a moron. The best thing is obviously with the Maya Rudolph character, which I went through a time where I couldn't really figure out why Maya Rudolph's character had to be a character in this movie. But I came to the conclusion that she's there to show you that Joe really is an idiot. Like, he really is not a smart person. Because
no, he's average.
Yeah.
I mean, he's smart in some areas, but he's also lacking in others, especially when it comes to social graces.
and he does not ever grasp that she's a prostitute.
Yeah.
And even though you're repeated,
well, you don't want to think the worst of somebody. I mean, when you say you're a prostitute, you think of dirty whore. I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, he the thing is that from his initial perception, she's a nice
she's
person,
in the private
decent
sector.
person.
She's in the private sector. He really admires that she has made a life for herself, doing a little of this and a little of that. He really respects that. And he, I guess, assumes the best in people, which is a good quality.
Yeah.
And she's much more streetwise.
Yes,
She's not
and that
book smart. She's
right.
streetwise, and that's the society she's entered.
She's in, and she
That's all that matters.
is very quickly appointed CEO of Starbucks.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
the
Like, how did this
qualification.
happen?
And again, the twist is that once Joe has to go through this ordeal of being in prison and then getting out of prison by saying, no, I'm supposed to be in the other line. You guys made a mistake. He becomes the Secretary of the Interior, and we meet the rest of the cabinet and President Camacho.
My favorite
President Terry
character.
Crews.
President
Yeah.
Dwayne
Fucking movie.
Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho.
Yeah.
And we get our
Only to be outdone in names by Dumbledore himself.
second Idiocracy appearance by David Herman as the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton.
Bolton. Yeah.
Michael Bolton.
Hey, I love it.
So, and again, we have an uncredited Sarah Rue. As the Attorney
They
General.
couldn't afford to have her on the cast.
I was trying to figure that out, and I think her TV career was just taking off. At this point, she was starring in. Was she on Less Than Perfect at this point, or?
I want to say so, but I mean that wouldn't be enough to keep her off a credit list. I mean, she's not exactly
Right, she's
Thomas
not-
Jane or
Less
Tom
Than
Jane.
Perfect ran from 2002 to 2006. So this is the end of Less Than
Okay,
Perfect.
so that's the end of that. Let's see. What was on the horizon? I guess a recurring stint on 2.5 Men.
But even again, we're not talking about something that would be like highly influential.
Yeah.
Not to the point where you would keep yourself off a cast list.
Yeah, I don't. That's
Yeah.
funny. I don't know why.
Because the only reason you would do that is that you don't want to be paid scale.
I guess so. Yeah.
Because, and again, I understand that this is something that's not understood about this film is that it's not a Hollywood
Sure.
film. This was independently made and at a very small budget.
Yeah. This is kind of a. It's still a small budget
Well, I
film.
mean, all the scenes that we're talking about, those are matte paintings. They're not even CG effects.
Yeah.
They're matte paintings. For the crying
Yeah,
out
it's-
loud. I mean,
it's funny,
Not even good ones at that.
It's funny. I often think of this as the big budget follow up to Office Space, but it really isn't. It just kind of looks it. I have to say that I've always had a crush on Sarah Rue, so she's not unwelcome showing up in this film. I don't know why. Again, I don't know why she's uncredited. Maybe you're right that they couldn't afford her.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, you've got Luke Wilson, Maya Rudolph, who I think was on SNL at this point, and that's pretty much it for having a big name
But at the
in
same
the
time, I
film.
mean, they had Justin Long on the cast list, and he was on there for less time than she was, and that was the guy, the face of Apple.
Yeah,
that
maybe
time.
maybe she was in too many scenes. He was just in the one scene. I don't know.
I don't know. It's probably something for the Find Interview with Mike Judge, or sit him down and go, why?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the credits. Why? And it could come down to budget and guilds and
more
such.
than likely. I mean, most cases where you see something like this, it's budget more than anything.
Sure.
Because they've worked together. This isn't so there's like a love-hate thing. They've worked together. I believe they even worked together after this. So it's not as though that they've had like a falling out.
Right.
And he just said, I'm not putting you on here. And he didn't worry that she would sue him for her credit.
You can actually see her now on a fairly funny show called Impastor, which I believe is on the TV Land channel.
Yeah, TV Land.
I've watched it before on Hulu. It's not a terrible show. It's got Michael Rosenberg from Smallville, and he's a con man who has to pretend that he's a man of the cloth.
Michael Rosenberg is not exactly what I consider to be a funny man.
Maybe comedy's not his strong point. No, it's.
I mean, no. He's capable of comedy, but not intentional comedy. Let's put it that way.
So the cabinet is made up of someone who's there because they're sponsored by the government, someone who's there because they won a contest. The Secretary of Education is likely learning disabled, and you have Sarah Rue as the Attorney General. And so naturally, Joe, having just been identified as the smartest man on earth, because he could identify that you would put, if you had 3 gallons in one bucket and 7 gallons in another bucket, you have 2 buckets.
2 buckets. Yeah.
Yep. He's like, that test.
But how many people would have
that test wasn't even that hard. And then of course President Camacho, who had won 3 Super Slams or Summer Slams or something like that.
Summer Slams.
Well,
yeah.
Super Slam, because Summer Slam was trademarked.
Yeah, so he's a big deal, and so the institutions are still there, right?
Yeah.
Like we still have a cabinet, we still have a presidency, we still have the House of Representatives, which I enjoyed.
That was one of those that actually made me kind of laugh.
Right? Yeah, that's a good gag.
The way linguistics works, you could almost see that happening in like 500 years.
Yeah.
Actually having a
right. Because what do? They
represent.
They
So
represent. They're the House of Representatives.
If street lingo, quote unquote, became the standard form, it is the House of Representatives.
That's what they do.
The hizzle of no.
The hizzle of the
Stop me now.
representizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be stop me before anyway.
And then we realize what the crisis is. It's the food shortage.
Right.
And who's going to solve it?
The
Not
smartest
sure.
man alive.
Not sure.
Not sure.
Not sure.
I love the fact that he's also going to cure car sickness as well.
Well, okay. Since we're at the House of Representatives and we have the president giving a State of the Union or whatever,
Sure.
this is where the argument that this is actually not a complete dystopia and it could be a utopia comes in. Because as much as we have slams against, non-straight sexualities throughout this film, there is no racial issues in the society. You have a black president and nobody cares.
Right.
They are fine with it. They are cool with it. Nobody complains. He's fine. Nobody says anything about it. You have actual racial equality. And the vernaculars of the different language groups, like inner city street talk and hillbilly talk, it's one language now.
Everything has kind of homogenized.
Yeah.
And I think we can thank television for that. If there's anything that kind of has helped brought us together, I think, in recent years, and this is why representation matters. It's seeing people on television kind of normalizes that. And certainly if wrestling was a big cultural touchstone, It's not like we haven't had wrestlers rise to elected office before, lest we forget the governor of Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Who should have?
And
I wish he had gotten a nomination. He was gonna run for libertarian, but Gary Johnson's not.
so, but I feel like it's not. And again, we've had actors ascend as high as the presidency, so it's not unheard of that someone would transition from entertainment or business or both to the presidency. And the fact that they just look like the rest of America, I think 500 years in the future, while all of this reproducing has gone on, that's what America looks like. If we went back to the very first instance of the exponential reproduction qualities of the lower educated. The second, I guess what you would now call the side chick, I think she was African American if you look at the family at the beginning of the film.
That's a crazy family tree. Yeah.
Well, again, yeah, you see the family tree go crazy. And what was it that their son impales himself on the crotch trying to jump a jet ski into a swimming pool? But thanks to stem cell research, folks, we can save him.
Afterwards.
Yeah, we can save it. We can save his junk.
But,
and one assumes that in the future, the star of Ow My Balls, who is
Ow My Balls,
repeatedly in
America's
person,
funniest Ow My Balls,
which
attack.
there's an argument there for this phenomenon that happens a lot at conventions where people treat the person they cosplay as the character and think that that's licensed to kind of behave how they would. There's this thing where, so he's the star of a show called Ow My Balls, so people will just come up to him in person and kick him in the balls, including when he's singing the national anthem, because that's what you do, right?
Ow, my ball. And he never thinks to wear armor down there.
No,
that makes
but
sense,
I'm sure stem cells have preserved.
But he has to say it, otherwise he doesn't. I mean, again, it's all about jingos. It's all about logos.
Yeah. No, I think he actually forgets and doesn't know because he's that dumb. So, ow, my balls.
No. I honestly think that, especially if you had your balls knocked that many times, either they would be that numb or you'd protect them, and then you would just pretend.
You've got your stem cells.
Well, if he has new ones grown with stem cells, the new ones would be overly sensitive because they've never been exposed to pain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
every time they get replaced,
that's a theory. It's like they're being kicked for the first time.
Yeah. Oh, God.
No wonder he's so surprised when it happens. All right, we have gone down the rabbit hole on this one.
Wow.
Oh, ow. All right, let's talk about. And again, there are twists that happen. Obviously, it takes the plants longer to recover from their sustained brondoing.
But they do recover.
And Joe finds himself in the arena, ready for one night of rehabilitation, which it doesn't sound so bad, right?
It's a gladiatorial arena.
Yeah.
But it's... Yeah. Well, it's the attitude of, get the biggest, baddest vehicles, and ignore the fact that somebody really tiny could avoid that if they really wanted to.
I love that you have the dildozer, right? Is one of them. And then the other one is the I'm drawing a blank here. It's the ass something. The ass sploder, maybe?
Yeah.
And then the biggest one is the ass dozer. So they just combine the two.
They look like heavy mining machinery.
They do, yeah. It's not...
Practically, they look like they'd be useful for that. But
I think that's what the Foot Clan uses to burrow underneath the city when they're going around there.
Yeah.
But again, they're both kind of phallic. And to continue with that, the car that Joe gets to use has a floppy dildo on it.
Yeah.
Duct taped to the hood.
And it's a great celebration when somebody catches it when it gets knocked into the crowd.
You get to catch it. Okay, so we skipped over a cameo. Thomas Hayden Church is the Brondo CEO, which is a great cameo.
And another Texan.
And
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of makes sense in terms of what we know about Mike Judge and King of the Hill and what he does.
Yeah. I'm putting it out there. On top of that, I believe that there's also a notation that one of the characters is a descendant of Hank Hill.
Oh, there is?
Yeah. So, again, going to the other Mike Judge franchise.
Do you know which character it was?
No, I don't. I remember seeing
All right.
It's probably somewhere on the
So
internet.
speaking of descendants and family members, Beef Supreme, who is the undefeated gladiator, king of the arena, portrayed by Andrew Wilson, brother of Luke and Owen, kind of the forgotten Wilson brother, I guess.
Well, there's always got to be that one that's got more talent but is quieter, and
he has the showmanship thing down, where he's just. I don't think he's dumb in the arena. He's controlling the crowd. It's like, here? No.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
He has crowd smarts, and which I don't think anybody else has. Well, except for the president has.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really stretching this thing out, and it's like, this is brilliant. He makes us an execution entertaining. So, Beef Supreme, no. God.
Come on. We got to talk about Camacho. God, I love Camacho.
All right. What about a President Camacho energizes you?
I'm just going to say this right now. My love for Terry Crews begins with President Camacho. I didn't know who Terry Crews was. I didn't follow the NFL. But from this point on, whenever I saw Terry Crews doing something, whether it be Everybody Hates Chris, to now Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I love Terry Crews.
The Old Spice commercials where he's the opposite of the other guy. It's like, it's you. It's me! Like, yeah.
Terry Crews is the quadruple threat. He's got the physical, he's got the mental, he's got the comedy, he's got the grace. He is a genuine 100% real deal. I love it when I see him in anything. I love his. I'm like iffy when it comes to the Expendables, but anytime that he's on as King Caesar or Hail Caesar, I fucking love it when I see him. He just has so much fun playing the badass, and yet he's just again like with Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where he completely goes against type. He just has this natural ability of being both funny and physical, and this comes out as President Camacho. This guy genuinely does have charisma. He definitely has the love of his people. I love the fact that they're willing to call him for shit when he's not taking care of the problem with the food. But I love the fact that he actually feels like a politician. Say what you will about, how good of a politician, or how good he is as a politician, but he does feel like a politician, right? I mean, the way he deals with naysayers, the way that he, credits and garnishes favor to individuals, right? I mean, he's not exactly the brightest bulb in the lot, but he still acts like a politician.
He surrounds himself with people that tell him what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he definitely has an unapologetic attitude towards getting what he wants and not getting what he wants. If You give him what he wants, you're fine. You're going to be pardoned. It's going to be great. Maybe you'll even be vice president. If you don't give him what he wants, lock him up.
Yeah.
And he certainly does know how to grab women by the...
Well, I mean, he does seem to be a virile man. Is one way that we.
Well, he has 12 women coming.
Well,
with him.
I guess in the future, polygamy is a thing, and it.
Well, the vice president will eventually have 8 women and have 36 children.
Yep. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid to go out in
Camacho's a
public,
great character.
so-
There's not enough Camacho in this. Actually,
No,
for me,
there's perfect amount.
they-
I don't want too much because then it just turns into mush. Every time that Camacho's on,
It's good.
great.
Yeah.
And it's all on Terry Crews. Terry Crews is just that kind of performer that you just can't get enough of him. But the thing is, I'm just so afraid of having too much. I'm one of those
Right.
people that I would prefer to be denied more Camacho out of
Yeah.
maybe
out of concern
maybe
of,
one term would be enough, but let's maybe not elect him for another term. Let's he should be a one
No,
term.
I would definitely like him for another term, but I'm just saying that I wouldn't be watching C-SPAN specifically just for him, especially.
But you
what
tune
C-SPAN
in
do.
you tune in for the State of the Union just to see if he'd pull out that
excuse me,
gun.
I do believe
Oh,
that
he'll pull
I
it
do
out.
believe that "Ow My Balls" is shown on C-SPAN late at night. So
That was the violence channel.
well, they
That
showed on
was-
both
That's,
channels.
That's actually
meat.
That's actually Meet the Press's Balls. Is
I
that's
get
what they
the two.
show.
It's a rip-off
So,
show. I get
Yeah, yeah. It's like
Yeah.
it's like one of those political talk shows, but
But I'm going to say this about Camacho, and this is something that I've truly firmly believed. If you really want more people watching political arguments, political debates, you need to set them up like WWE matchups.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest here, if the State of the Union starts with a WWE intro for the president, how many people would be fucking
listen,
pumped?
I think so many of do you remember back during the Republican primaries where there were 16 candidates
Yeah.
and they all had to share a stage and somehow I think that ultimately if ladders had been a thing or if chairs were a thing or even if there was a general audience participation score that would lead to a trapdoor being opened at a certain point if someone wasn't getting enough likes or something like that. Just to thin the herd a bit. I'm not saying that you have to base a democracy on it or a functioning government, but to thin the herd just a bit, we probably would have ended up with the same result. So
I
we
think,
we just maybe would have gotten there a little quicker.
I think if you had a steel cage match, Paul Ryan would have come in, and he's really fit, and
That's
he would
a
have
good
cleaned
argument.
house.
That I think one of the best arguments maybe for Gary Johnson was that he's a really
too.
fit dude.
Yeah.
And just in a one-on-one matchup, you got to give the edge to the guy who climbed Everest, right? Or whatever
Yeah.
he did, I don't know. But the flubby out of shape guy is not gonna cut it. You have to be fit mentally and physically, I think, for that job. And there's kind of the argument that for Camacho, he's a strong man, and that's why he's gotten to that point. It's not that he's the brightest or the most politically savvy, but nobody really wants to stand up to him. So when he runs for president, yeah, sure, that guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
All right. So the reveal at the end that the water works.
Yeah.
We have the ridiculously large camera of the future.
We do not go over the whole monster truck dildo fight. Come
Well, it's kind of
on.
anticlimactic, though, isn't it? I mean, I guess he outsmarts them in
Yeah.
a way, gets them to crash into each other.
It did. This movie did predict a Starbucks literally everywhere because there's a farmer field, and hey,
Yes.
there's a Starbucks.
Mhm.
I mean,
Hold on, no. Well, no. Technically speaking, Austin Powers had that joke a little bit earlier than
okay.
that.
which one?
So-
The
Was it?
second?
I don't
or
think
the
they were
third
giving
one?
I
out.
believe it was the second.
I don't
one.
think they were giving out lattes with extra foam, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
extra foam.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, it's extra hot latte.
Yeah, and there's
latte,
extra foam.
Hot latte.
All right. Anyway, you love money too, man. What? We should hang out. There's So next to the field, there's a Starbucks.
Yeah.
It exists there to distract you from nature, but I don't know. I just think that the Deus ex machina from this film is
water works.
Yeah, is that water is actually what plants crave. And from kind of this, whether it's Waterworld or Mad Max, there's always this thing about somehow in the future we run into crop shortages, or we don't have enough arable land, and it becomes a thing. And in the future, if you want to keep living, you're going to have plants somehow. WALL-E does this as well. And WALL-E is a film that there's also, I think WALL-E came out a year or two later, that there are a lot of parallels between WALL-E and Idiocracy in terms of the vision of the future. And it's kind of interesting to take those two films together and look at, in the mid to late 2000s, then there was a feeling that laziness and corporations and not dealing with your problems and just kind of ignoring them would eventually lead to trouble.
But now we just blame the millennials because nobody else is lazy ever. Yeah. So. Yeah. That's.
I'm sorry. I'm a little pissed off about the whole blaming millennials and blaming people.
I'm pissed off about a lot of things, but I think one thing that we can take away from Idiocracy is that the period in which the film was made and the period that we're entering now were Republican presidencies. And there was kind of the culture clash of there's kind of this thing where intellectualism and really having intellect is equated with elitism. And we see that in this film. Like, people just don't trust Joe in the future because he sounds too smart. He sounds smarmy and smug and snobby. Where if you listen to how the police and the lawyers talk when they're trying to sound smart, they'll throw in extra words. In this particular instance of what we have now with this individual, we have a most unique situation here where this particular, and they just kind of go on and they just kind of.
And it sounds like some things I've heard people getting interviewed today sound like.
Right.
It's like,
right, and so you have this kind of they're overcompensating by trying to sound like what they think smart people sound like.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of an interesting thing that I noticed with Idiocracy. And again, I'm not enough of a cynic to think that Idiocracy is the direction that we're headed as a nation, but certainly if you wanted me to put money on, in 10 years from now, when Idiocracy came out, 10 years later, are we going to be closer to or further away from the future that it envisions? I would have put my money on being further away just because I'm an optimist. Shows how wrong I was.
Mad Max.
Listen, stock up. Buy seeds, people. Buy seeds.
Well, actually, here's a crazy.
And then water them with Brondo.
Here's a crazy idea. What if Mad Max is taking place in Australia at the same time Idiocracy is taking place in North America?
It's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Oh, no wonder Max hates everything.
Yeah. Oof. Geek sheet, I guess. I don't know if we're ready to put the plot to bed on this one, such as it is.
You mean the anti-Buck Rogers in the 20th century?
Yeah. There's not a ton of geek sheet stuff. that we haven't mentioned. Again, we get a cameo from Thomas Hayden Church, which is pretty great as the CEO of Brondo.
Half this cast has done voice acting for Marvel.
Right.
Or Cartoon Network or whatever. Yeah.
We have, as we said, we have a Mac in this movie, which is kind of cool. Dax Shepard, who I don't think we've really talked about. He's an actor.
Because he's really he'll go on to do some interesting stuff later on, but in this movie, he's completely forgettable. His character is really bad. I mean, this is a really bad character.
I mean, his name is Frito Bendejo. So
No. With a name like that, you should have something interesting, and it would have been fun and funny. And Dax Shepard is fun and funny when he has something that he can work with. The problem here is he doesn't. And the thing is that he basically, all he does is he says, I like money and I like sex. That's what he pretty much says throughout the entire movie.
Part of it, he is the guide. He acts as
Joe's
guide,
but the problem is that but his character is limited to having these two basic urges. So that's all he's doing throughout the film. And then the rest of the time, if he had anything more interesting going on, it would be an interesting correlation between him and between him and Joe. The thing is that if there's one thing that I'm really going to ding this movie on, is it mismatches characters. Yeah. There's three main characters here. We have Joe, we have Maya Rudolph's character, and we have Frito. And I'm saying Maya Rudolph's character because she's so much of just Maya Rudolph and not really playing a character that I don't even know who her character's name is. And that's a problem. I mean, she's the prostitute. And they make a big joke about that, but she doesn't do much more than that. And on top of that, because there is something that could naturally come across between Joe and Frito, this is where the relationship should really be. But Frito is just two notes to the point where there's nothing that he's going to do that is going to be interesting. And the film, which could at least capitalize on this, could capitalize on the fact that there's a two-note thing with Frito, doesn't.
Well, the gag where he turns out to be the lawyer, I think, is like a perfect example of.
But they don't capitalize on
if you
really
hadn't met him before, and he shows up as the lawyer, then you're like, okay, whatever. But because you met him, like he's your first exposure to this world.
Cars 1 had a joke just like this and did better than this one.
What not to get super highbrow beyond my IQ? It looks like his character was an attempt to do the guide from Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
And
I'll take it.
Doesn't quite hit it.
No.
But he is this is the circle of hell where I got my degree.
But in that case, Frito should be able to be more, be capable of actually saying what's happening. He should. The thing is that we have a voiceover. The voiceover gives us all of the real exposition.
Yeah,
so we don't even need Frito in that particular element.
There's something to be said for this whole kind of subplot about finding a time machine, and it's actually a amusement park ride. And he knew it was an amusement park ride, and he just wanted to see the look on the guy's face when he found that out. But he also was hoping to make money off the deal somehow, but he didn't put the two together.
No, I'm sorry. That's bullshit. That's Mike Judge had a great idea at some point, and he decided, well, no, I'm keeping this idea. I'll just force it because they're stupid. The problem is that he's constituting stupid and lazy as two of the same thing, and they're not. And like with the whole idea of like the building that's falling apart, and they just rope it around the next building. That's lazy. That's not stupid. That's again, the thing is that he doesn't really understand, and the thing is that he's correlating these two things together, and so that kind of rounding things together that don't really equate just comes off as lazy in itself. I mean, like if Monty Python had taken up the idea of an Idiocracy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that there's definitely there are some shortcuts taken in structuring this movie that
this is an idea that should be just explored. I'm sorry,
a brilliant satirist I think would have made a much better film, and I don't think that Mike Judge is a brilliant satirist.
No.
I think that even what Futurama kind of does with some of these ideas, and again, Futurama is basically the same story of an average person or a below average person waking up in the future.
Than
Futurama does a much better job with a lot of these ideas and playing with audience expectations and seeing where things go. I don't think that, and again, we'll get to our verdict here in a second, I don't think that Idiocracy holds up as a particularly great movie. I think it holds up because it's like this weird prophecy in some ways. And again, like I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole of where we have delved into anti-intellectualism and things like social responsibility and coherent ideas of justice and human rights have kind of taken a back seat at some points, that we're now kind of in this weird situation where we're more divided than we were. And even, listen, if you told me during the Bush administration that in 10 years we're going to be even more divided, I'd be like, yeah, I feel like this is a president where we all kind of pretty much feel like has done a terrible job and is leaving office with some of the lowest approval ratings ever. I'd be like, yeah, it's only going to get better from here, right? Okay.
Well, I don't know. I think that the problem here is that this is an idea that deserves to be explored much more than this film ever really does. I mean, I'll go ahead. I'll tip my hand here. When I think back on Idiocracy, I have the ideas are fucking brilliant. The ideas that are going on here, the way that they establish, like Camacho specifically, the judicial system, how entertainment is viewed now. These are things that are just rippling, are just ripe for satire. But the problem is that this deserves the hand of a satirist who genuinely understands this stuff much better than Mike Judge does. This requires the likes of a Monty Python or Matt Groening or other or Matt Groening. Sorry, not Matt Groening. Sorry, Matt. Sorry, I don't mean to associate you with a bad individual, but but someone who has a better idea of what satire is, who knows satire to the point that they could make the inside references that are both not just brilliant but smart, and to tie this into things in ways that are both contemporary or timeless, and at the same time that will be topical later on. Idiocracy hits two of those three. And maybe that's enough for most, but for me, the problem is that third one that they misses so wide, it just takes away from any kind of like. Like I said, when we get to Dax Shepard and he becomes a major character, he's just two notes. And those two notes are over and over and over again. Now, that might work with Beavis and Butthead, but when you're talking about a fully feature where you have multiple personalities and characters that are playing up against one another, you need to have someone that's going to be able to do more than that.
If he does represent the society, though, the society is two notes.
Yeah.
Money and sex.
But that's the problem. It's like but no society
you would imagine
is
that there would be more cultural richness then
this is lazy. Yeah. This is like, I don't want to do the extra work. I don't really want to get to the bottom of this. I just want to make fun of easy targets.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of low-hanging fruit that gets plucked with this movie. I don't want to like rush you, but do you want to make that your verdict and put a tag on that one?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much where I'm going. You know, if you ask me pass or fail or maybe, I'm going to say that while I really want to give it a maybe, I can't because it's a fail because it doesn't hit the one thing it has to hit. It has to hit the satire. If it doesn't hit the satire, then it's just wrong. It doesn't do it. There are things I think about, true, but the ideas aren't the movie. The ideas are just out there, and I just want someone they'll be able to collect those and do something better with them. Which, of course, when I watch Futurama, that's what I'm talking about. It takes those ideas, the laziness, the irritability, the fact that humanity doesn't really, as much as we advance technologically, we don't advance in our intellect. We don't advance in our emotions. We basically are the same jerks. We just have more power to it. Futurama does a better job at this than Idiocracy, and Idiocracy doesn't really keep going. You know, halfway through watching the movie for this review, I found myself going, man, I really want to watch Futurama again. That's not where I should be thinking. But that's what I think.
All right, Kent?
I am, for many of the same reasons, but without being as harsh, I'm going maybe. It's frighteningly prophetic about what it does. Like, oh, people are gonna do this, this, and this. Oh, that can't be. Oh, crap. It just does strike too close to home on a lot of just things here and there. It does remind me of some other theoretical futures, I'd say speculative fiction futures that are out there, like mega corporations taking over and just running everything, but still it's this is one of those movies where you watch either to laugh at dumb humor or you just want to feel bad about the future of humanity.
If that's the case, then I'll just watch Ass the movie.
I'm surprised nobody has made Ass the movie. That would be a great
they have.
Oh, people did? Okay, because that would be a great film school thing just to put into art house pretentious places.
I want James Lipton to review and to talk.
Well, the twist is that it's James Lipton's ass, and then it just comes.
I'll tell you right now. I'll say this: if that actually was James Lipton's ass, I would pass this. I'll just say that right now. I will fucking pass it if that happened to be James Lipton's ass.
Have a credit. I'm sorry. This sounds very idiocracy.
Okay.
But I don't
While
think...
Kent looks that up,
no, there is no credit for the ass.
I will offer my
verdict.
verdict.
Search for ass under.
Yeah, I know.
This,
I can hear you typing.
But what? But okay. So Ken is maybe.
Ken is maybe.
I am maybe. Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and say that when I look at a movie like this that talks about where we might be in the future, I think there's two elements that I look for. One is how well does the movie work just on its own? If it were just a movie about, again, like Star Trek, any kind of science fiction, any kind of speculative stuff, you know, or even historical, dealing about a story in the past, whether or not it depicts the events of the past accurately 100% or 50% or whatever. I look for the story of the film, right? So is this a good story? Does this hold up? Is it, in this case, it's a comedy. Is it funny? Does it make me laugh out loud? Do I enjoy that humor or the sensibilities of the film? Now, I will say that in the case of Idiocracy, when I watched it the first time, I didn't find it all that funny. When I watched it today, I found it slightly funnier, but not really that much more. Like, there were things that I laughed at today because I feel like maybe the Starbucks, the Costco, the things that have become, the institutions, I'll say, that maybe have become a little bit more central to our society, that it was maybe out on a limb a little bit in 2006. Like, I think in 2006, I had never been in a Costco, and the Starbucks thing was just starting to push, I think, into our area. And now I think now there's a Starbucks in every corner. Or now they've like pulled back and closed a bunch of them. I don't know. So
I live only 6 miles away from what Lewis Black deems as the center of the
because
universe.
there's a Starbucks on every corner. Two Starbucks facing
No,
each
there's
other.
Two facing each other.
Yes.
Yeah. So
And I go by it every single day.
So
I need pictures.
to me, the is this a good movie element doesn't really hold up. So I can't give it a pass on the is this a great movie. I really don't think it is. The prophecy element is a whole nother thing, right? So to talk about this movie, that does it kind of get to where we might be in society in 500 years? Yeah, it does, but it totally misses the margin by about 490 years. No, I'm kidding. But there certainly are things that you can look at this movie and go, okay, some of this has come to pass, or there are shades of some of this that have come to pass. But again, I feel like those shades are things that were true in 2006. We had a president who many of the elites thought was kind of a dummy. We had a professional wrestler serving in government. We mentioned Jesse the Body Ventura. So it's not that out of sorts. And again, Wall-E kind of looked at society and drew the same conclusions for the future. Wall-E was a kids movie, a Pixar movie that did stuff with Earth has been abandoned because there's too much trash. And for that matter, 10 or 20 years before, Red Dwarf had kind of done the same thing.
And it's still going.
And it's still going. But had kind of done the same thing. So I feel like these are common threads in science fiction. And I don't think that Idiocracy stands above any of them in terms of offering a more or less cogent vision for the future. So it's kind of a fail on both those counts for me, and I think it's going to have to be a fail overall on this film. It was fun and honestly a nice diversion to talk about this. It's nice to talk about a future in which these things have come to pass, but we're not like at war with each other or protesting in the streets, or like we're kind of at a state where, and I'm going to borrow from Kent here. Kent said that maybe this is a utopia. And I think in this case, ignorance is bliss. Yeah. These people are ignorant as shit, but they're kind of happy about it because I don't know, maybe they don't know what they're missing. So it's not any world that I want to live in, for sure. I'll do my best to make sure that Idiocracy does not come to pass. But I guess I need to start having kids. So,
and it's very possible that these people are dumb because of the education system.
Could be.
There could be some really, at heart, smart people out there, but education matters. I'm pointing at the microphone. Education.
That's right. Get yourself educated, get some knowledge, and go out there and make the world better. That's all
University
I got to say.
University of Costco. Oh,
that's right. I got my law degree at this Costco.
Oh, cool. But that implies he spent a lot of time there because he knows it. So.
All right, folks. We have given you, I think now, 4 episodes, kind of a political primer. We've given you lots of different ways to look at and think about our political systems. We've presented you probably 4 disparate and probably equally disheartening visions as we've gone through Primary Colors, A Face in the Crowd, The Manchurian Candidate, and Idiocracy. And now it's time to get together with your families and hopefully avoid getting into arguments about politics. And we can argue about other things and other family drama.
Wait. So are we trying to say we went from one art house of horror to another art house of horror, and we're going into another art house of horror?
We are going into a third. We are going into a third level of hell, which is Family Thanksgiving with Ang Lee's The Ice Storm.
Okay.
Oh yes.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the future and exploring the eerie parallels to the present. Let's put Arthouse of Politics to bed for at least another 2 years.
And then let's go back 30 years to free sex, dysfunctional families, and key parties.
Yeah, that's what we got to do.
That was that's making America great.
That is making America a thing that it once was once again, for sure.
Yes.
And
our next episode is what?
I said the title, Ang Lee's The Ice Storm. But in keeping with the colder weather, we are also ramping up for a holiday extravaganza. We have some Christmassy feeling movies on tap, and also a little bit of a retrospective of the work of Quentin Tarantino on tap before the end of the year.
All leading up to a surprise season stunner, as we will be discussing at some point.
Did somebody say stunner?
But
Stone Cold.
Yes.
Stone Cold.
If you smell...
Stunner.
No.
Oh, wait, sorry.
No.
Wrong guy.
No, wrong guy.
But yes, so in December, we're starting things off with a holiday classic from 1988. The feel-good Christmas comedy Lethal Weapon, starring one Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. This ought to be interesting. Then we have a Tarantino 2-4 going on here. We're dealing with his two westerns, Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight, which I have to admit I'm very excited about because we're having a special guest on for that episode. Then we are heading off to a couple of films that are, if I'm not correct, pretty close to you, Lobster. Do you want to talk about those?
Which ones? Sorry.
I believe the first one in your grouping is a little indie film from a well-known playwright starring Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. So one of my favorite, I guess, Christmas movies from the past few years, In Bruges. And we are capping 2016 with a film I've been...
And thank God we're capping 2016.
Yeah. We're putting this puppy to bed with a film that I've been dying to talk about, which I think will have Colin Farrell in it again. We're going Colin Farrell, with The Lobster. And again, big announcement forthcoming regarding our discussion of that film. We're going to put this one to bed, though, back into cryo sleep for hopefully a long, long time.
Well, 4 years is definitely a long, long time.
One might say
or until the bloody revolution happens.
We'll see. We shall
Could happen.
see.
We don't know.
Many things could happen. But for now,
all right.
This is John Lobster.
And this is the Secretary of State Kent, brought to you by Carl's Jr.
And this is the MovieDude Eric, sponsored by Brondo, the Thirstinator.
By the way, if Carl's Jr. really wants to sponsor this podcast, call us.
Yeah. We'll take literally any sponsorship, including, for your consideration, ass in cinemas now.
Get your ass to ass.
Get your ass to ass.
Considering this year's cinema selections, I would probably be in agreement.
And Fiend. And fiend. And fiend. And fiend. No, I'm trying to. And fiend.